Hey there, everybody. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of In the Prog Seat. Yes, it's Tuesday night. We've got in the house today, all the way from Scotland, Mr. Stephen Reid. We've got from Canada, Rick LaBonte. From New Jersey, the professor of prog, Ken Golden. From Pennsylvania, IA, we've got Anthony Ferraro. From Chicago, George Lamie. And yes, I'm your only New Yorker here on the show today. Welcome to another edition of In the Prog Seat. Today, we're going to kind of do part two of our look at favorite albums from the 2000s. We did 2000 to 2009, a few weeks back. Today, we're going to go 2010 to 2020. I've asked everybody to pick out their 5 favorites. Again, prog rock, prog metal, jazz fusion, all those sort of things. Kind of tough, a lot of really good releases over the last decade or so. And we'll probably throw some honorable mentions out at the end. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in the same order we just did. So Stephen, Rick, Ken, Anthony, George, myself, round and round we go till we get to our number ones. So Mr. Reid, kick us off with your number 5.
Well, as you just said there, Peter, this is very difficult. So I kind of made a little agreement with myself that for my main 5, I was going to try and steer clear of anything that I've mentioned in any great detail up till now on the show, because there's so much stuff out there. Lots of people will already know the kind of things that I like a lot. So honourable mentions is where they're going to go. So there'll be some things that people will go, surely he would pick, well, I will, but later. So my first choice is a UK band, I.O. Earth. Okay. This is their 3rd album, New World. So they're a kind of, it's a neo-prog kind of sound, but there's a more symphonic bent on that, I would suggest. The band have got 3 singers at this stage. They've evolved as they moved through their time together. Linda Odinson is kind of the main singer on this one, along with Dave Curtin and Adam Goff, who between them play guitars and keyboards and programming and theremin and lots of other things too. But on the album, you'll find there's saxophone, there's flutes, there's quite a lot of wind instruments. They use a lot of choir vocals in there. There's violin, mandolin. So it's quite a kind of standard sound that they kind of use as a basis, and then they mold it from there into something else. I wouldn't say something else entirely, but something that's certainly more of their own. And it makes it quite an interesting kind of sound. It's a double album, so there is an awful lot here. They tend to do that. I.O. Earth tend to not give you that kind of sweet spot 40-minute, 50-minute album. They tend to go, we don't do an awful lot of albums, so we'll give you everything we did. But they tend to also be really quite good from start to finish. And this, to me, is probably their best one. But it's a tough call because there's a lot of good stuff in the catalogue. So if you like some kind of serious musical interplay, there's huge melodies in there too. There's even some folk elements in there, and there's some quite interesting arrangements too. There's a good variation in sound and dynamics in there. Then I would suggest that I.O. Earth are for you. So this is their 3rd album. This is New World, and that's my first pick.
Cool.
Stephen, what year was that from?
That's from 2015.
15, okay.
Yeah,
they have an acoustic album that just came out.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, they've not been very prolific of late, so it's good to see something coming from them.
I kind of lump them in with probably incorrectly, but Mostly Autumn, Karnataka, all of those sort of.
It's not far from there. I would maybe say it's like Magenta, but slightly heavier. So I know exactly where you're coming from, Ken. It's that kind of sound, and there's quite a lot of that music from this time period, and it kind of falls into the sort of things that I like. So there'll be a mention of some more of that kind of stuff later on too.
All right, Rick, your number 5.
Okay, well, like you said, there's a lot of great stuff. I mean, if people honestly thought prog was just in the 70s and 80s, they needed a wake-up call, because this last 10 years been brilliant stuff. In fact, some of the artists I'm gonna pick today, I could pick any one of their albums because they're so equal, almost at par with some of the greatness. And then I'm just probably gonna bring it out because if somebody else mentioned, I might grab another album. That's why I got a stack, and I got a whole stack that's screaming things, pick me, pick me. But I decided to pick the 5 the most that I have listened to. And obviously, if I put more time listening to it, it means I would like it a lot. Because I don't have a ranking order for what I do today. It's because they're really special. There's a lot of greatness out there, and prog is still alive. Well, let's start with this one from 2013. I could have picked the last year's album or the album before that, but this seemed to be the one that really hit me. It's called Haken, The Mountain, right? Brilliant album. I mean, it's an amusement park of prog, because you go into an area of symphonic, then you go a little bit of metal, then the rock, a little jazzy stuff, a lot of vocal harmonies. It could be poppy at times. It really serves so many genres in one melting pot, and they do it so well that you can't believe that they just changed the music so drastically like this. I really like their imagination. It gives me a lot of encouragement that the prog is in good hands with people like this. They're putting out stuff like that. I was really happy. And so I know this has been mentioned on the show. I believe Stephen and Pete have done a good ranking, so I don't have to go elaborate. Check that out on SOT. You'll see this is a really good catalog. Almost every album is a must have, but this is my favorite.
Yeah, I mean, Rick, I think you hit the nail on the head. There's a bunch of bands that were fairly busy throughout this decade that we're talking about, and you can pick any of them. And certainly Haken, every one of them that they released during that 10-year period is worthy of being mentioned on the show. So
right on.
Cool.
I want to drink what Rick is drinking.
Oh, then it's just coffee.
I think there's a lot of caffeine in it. There's a lot of caffeine in that.
And when you talk music, I'm just like that on stage. They call me Rick Jagger sometimes because I'm all over the place.
He's doing like a magic act there. Like he's pulling up CDs and they're disappearing. And
oh yeah,
like
out of the prog world.
He's got like a whole presentation going on there, man. You're the greatest.
All right, Ken, what do you got for number?
Oh, it's my turn. Oh, okay.
Yes.
So I actually have
Come on, Ken, shock the world.
Well, not yet, man, but I will. But what I actually was shocked was that last decade was great. And when my initial thought before I really started research, it was kind of a shitty decade for music. It really wasn't.
Right. When
we did the previous show, 2000 to 2009, that was the decade of prog metal. 2010, I did to 2019. Nobody told me 2020, but it doesn't matter because 2020 sucked on every level, right? So that was the decade of prog rock. And I had this incredibly long list. I said to Pete, I said, can I do 10? I'll talk really fast. And he shot that idea down. I don't know why, but he didn't think that was such a great idea, but I would have gone with it. So here's the thing. I got a lot. So I have my top 5 and I'm going to present them in kind of random order because I think they're all great. And I have a lot of honorable mentions that we can run through later. And I think that any of the honorable mentions I have could have easily been in my top 5. It was that strong a decade. I mean, it got to the point where I stopped looking after a while because I've left things off the list because I mean, it was getting ridiculous. Really, really was strong. So the first one, I'm gonna, as I said, I'm gonna do this sort of out of order. I'm doing it because I don't have a prop for it because I sold out of it, and that is Engelgard, Vilgens Oga, which came out in. You left that out, Pete.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. That's it. Anthony, take over the show. So
no, that's okay. That means you have it back. You got it covered.
Yeah, I mean, I just talked about them in last week's show, but yeah, that should have easily been in my.
I mean, it could have been my number 1, but
yeah,
it would have been really anticlimactic if you would have said number 1. I would have said I got nothing to hold up, so I'm picking it. I'm picking it first, and the whole idea of Engelgard doing an album in 2012 was totally improbable. It was 18 years previous for Epilogue, their second album. So, you know, when we found out that they were doing a third album, the expectations were unbelievably high, and they didn't disappoint at all. It sounds like Engelgard, the way you remember them. And if anything, the band got better. The instrumentation is probably just a little more diverse. The production is much, much better. You know, I'm sure everybody by now knows Engelgard. They basically assimilated all the best aspects of 70s progressive rock, and they just kind of churned it all together. And you know, they proudly wore their influences on their sleeves. And they made 3 fantastic studio albums and a brilliant live album. And I think Viljoen's Oga, that may be their best album. And like I said, I'm picking at number 5. Could have been number 1.
Yeah, it's a brilliant album. It's I mean, you know, I keep saying it as well, but it's still kind of new. It's like not new. It's almost a decade old already.
It's right. It is. It's a decade old.
Yeah.
You know, Pete, I mentioned the other. I thought, man, I cut you off at the knees there. You know, I figured that was going to be your number 1 pick. I'll blow you out of the water and make it number 5.
Yeah, I don't know how I missed that. But again, I mean,
Hey, wasn't that released right at Nearfest time in 2012?
Yeah.
It's a great album.
It really is.
You know, those. Yeah, I mean, all 3 of those studio albums are great in their own way. Hybris was great, but it was, you know, the production values were a little, you know, it was a little bit of a low rent recording and all. They, you know, this one sounded fantastic.
Yeah,
great album.
Good.
Great album.
It is. That's a great choice. All right, Anthony, you're number.
Oh, all right. My number 5 from the 2010 to 2019-20, whatever, comes from 2011. I saw the band probably 3 years previously when they came to town and toured. I thought it was fantastic. Got to meet my idol. I should have got my picture taken with him. I only got his autograph. I was crumbling over my words, and I got him to sign. And I told him my favorite album was, and he loved it. He's like, "Oh, thank you, mate." I'm going with 2011, Fly From Here from Yes. I know we have a leftover from the drama sessions, but I think it works well. I think Benoit David works well. Other tracks I really enjoy in this, Life on a Film Set. I really enjoy Into the Storm with the duet with Chris Squire. So Fly From Here works for me, even though it's not Trevor Horn. I know they released it a couple years later, but it works for me. I thought Benoit David did a great job. He did a great job live. He did a great job with the drama stuff when they played that stuff live. So 2011, Yes is Fly From Here.
I will say that's not going to show up on any of my lists.
Not mine either. Who was it you got to meet? Who did
Chris Squire. I met Chris Squire.
Oh, nice.
That's cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
Yeah, well, he came late. We were at a bar. I had a coaster. I ran and I said, "Oh my God, Fish Out of Water is like my all-time favorite album." He's like, "Thank you, mate." And they signed my coaster, and I was like, "Oh," I was just flustered.
Well, Chris Squire arrived late. Shocking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bill Bruford devoted an entire chapter about that in his autobiography.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did.
That's why I left after Close to the Edge.
Yeah. Cool. All right, George. You're number 5.
My number 5 is band here. District 97. Trouble with Machines on the fabulous Laser's Edge label. This is 2012, their second album. It's a little darker than the rest of their albums. For me, the quality of the songwriting is better. Carried mostly by fabulous Leslie on vocals. To me, she's the best female vocalist in the genre. Super creative melodies, just very catchy, but yet weird enough where it's not very boring. Like a lot of female vocalists, very commercial sounding. She has a commercial sounding voice, but the melodies are creative enough that it doesn't strike you as her being softy or anything. It's very good stuff. Back and Forth, the opener, one of my favorites, and the closer, The Thief, like a 15-minute epic with a Bring the House Down keyboard solo. Just a really, really good album. Easily the best of theirs, if you ask me. So, District 97.
I'd agree with that. And there's some serious players in that band.
Yeah, they're all jazz giggers here in town when they're
Yeah.
not doing this. So
Leslie's great because she doesn't come from any of the, prog. She has no prog background or anything. She just knew those guys, and she just, wanted to sing in a band, and they gave her all this like screwed up shit to sing, and she loved it.
I don't know if anybody's heard her EP that she put out like not that long ago, but man, she could go and just be a pop or solo artist and do very well for herself if she wanted to.
Well, she was on American Idol, right?
Yeah, she's got that it quality,
Yeah, she's got it all, doesn't she?
Yeah.
She's the total package.
Yep.
you got any eyes?
Leslie, if you're watching, we're all big fans. So
This is great. even though she drove into the back of my car one night.
oh, oops, that's not cool. I'm sure it was an accident.
They got paid, so I would think so.
There you go.
That's a happy ending.
All right. So the reason why I decided to do like 2010 to 2020 and not just do the obvious go to 2019 is because who the hell knows if we're going to be here in 2029 doing this show. So I figured, you know what, let's just include the extra year. And I'm glad that I did, because then I can squeeze this one in here. My first pick is from 2020, Dwellers of the Deep by Wobbler.
Okay.
Yes.
And again, like Rick said earlier, they have a couple of albums that came out in this decade, and I could have picked any of them. But man, I think I like the most recent the best. This is just great. I mean, these guys, for those of you watching, and we do have Rand Kelly and I are doing a Wobbler ranking the album show this week, but Norwegian band. If you kind of like Anglagard, if you love all the classic bands of the 70s, they kind of take all those influences, and they're not afraid to show their influences. And it's just great symphonic pastoral prog. If you love King Crimson and Genesis and Yes and the Moody Blues and that sort of thing, wonderful stuff. 4 long tracks, loads of Mellotron, Moog synthesizer, Hammond organ, electric guitar, acoustic 12-string guitar, Rickenbacker bass. I mean, just magical stuff. Every album of theirs, they got 5 albums. They're all amazing. I recommend any of them and all of them, but Dwellers of the Deep is their most recent. I'm going to have this start off my list at number 5.
Yeah.
Back to Steve.
That's a really good choice. I'm quite new to them, and that was my starting point. That's a tremendous album. Really blew me away. So as with everybody, I'm not really ranking these in an order 5, 4, whatever. But my number 4 it's a band that we spoke about last week, but not necessarily. They weren't actually the band that were being spoken about at the time. So it's the Pineapple Thief. That's who I've chosen for my number 4. This is Someone Here Is Missing from, I've gone to the other end of the decade. This is 2010. We're roughly in the middle of their catalogue at this stage. And I like this era of them a lot. They've become a bigger band since this point. Bigger tours, much more notice about them. As we discussed last week, Gavin Harrison is now part of the band, and he's getting strong billing depending on what territory they play in. He's not in the band at this stage. And this and All the Wars, which comes after, is the stage where they're kind of moving from that kind of melancholy UK sound that people connect with Radiohead and Coldplay. To me, I don't hear much of those bands in what the Pineapple Thief do, but I can understand why the connections are made because of the mood, I think, than the music itself. And I think there's a real balance between the accessible side and the atmospheric prog that they've kind of gone on to play now. They're also kind of seen as a bit of Porcupine Tree clones. I kind of get that too as well, but I think by this stage they're really beginning to find their own kind of sound. They sound like nobody else other than the Pineapple Thief to me at this stage. And there's songs on here like Nothing at Best, Show a Little Love, the title track itself, 3,000 Days, where really they're as strong as you'll find anywhere in the catalogue, and they still go back and play a little bit off this album when they play live now. And I just like the whole package as well. I like the album cover. I think it's a Storm Thorgerson album cover, which is a bit bizarre and a bit odd. It's a chap on the front and he's covered in Post-its. And when I saw the band on the All the Wars tour, they actually had a carrier bag, unloved carrier bag, filled with all the Post-it notes. So they said at that stage, myself, I was there with my daughter, and they said, if you want to rake through the bag and find the Post-it that you would like, we'll frame it. And the guy that was doing the merch was kind enough to rake round the whole room halfway through the show after putting it in a frame and doing all this for me. And we rummaged through until we found the actual album title. So I have the Post-it that's on here that's got the album title on it. So had to mention
That's pretty
this.
cool. Wow.
I like it. That's one of my favourite little bits that I've got. It cost me a huge £8. That's what they were charging.
I saw the Pineapple Thieves in concert, and when I went to UK, Uriah Heep was playing the night before, and they were the headline. And they had the Soft Machine, they had Caravan, they had quite a few. The Gong was there, but I really enjoyed how they kind of hypnotized the whole room. Like that music is just so, and my girlfriend liked it. She's not one to listen a lot of prog, but she liked their music. It's got that melancholy vibe to it that it's accessible, but it's definitely, very creative, very original too, I might add.
Do you know, on that same tour where I got the Post-it, as you say, their music can be really quite plaintive, quite stripped back at times, quite bombastic at other times as well. And there was a moment where Bruce Seward, the singer, the main guy in the band, writes nearly all of the music. And the spotlight was on him. It's a small room. You can just about lean over and touch whoever's on stage if you're right at the barrier. And he's playing the guitar and he's in the moment and he's just him, his voice, his guitar. And he opens his eyes to find a woman just about here taking a selfie of her with him in the background. I mean, talk about ruin the moment. I mean, what do people think? But anyway.
That happens all the time now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I actually threw him because I mean, it was so close. Because
he had his eyes closed, right? Imagine opening them and all of a sudden, boom,
he opened his eyes. He was lost in the moment and just saw the back of a head and a phone. Anyway.
Welcome to the 2000s, right? The modern era.
Yeah.
All right, Rick, what do you got next?
Okay. Next, I think, I like to elaborate a little bit on this because in the 20th century, we had some really amazing double albums, concept albums, or even rock operas. And we haven't had anything as, like, I think this is really a magnificent piece of work coming in the 21st century. I haven't been this excited about a project like when I heard Tommy the first time. And one thing we know about Pete Townshend is that when he got to Quadrophenia, we weren't surprised that could be great by then because he had a pattern of greatness from, Who's Next and so on. And so this artist put a band together, a dream team, and he wrote an album and the next album is just so great. I know I might be a minority here as far as giving this in the top 5, but I just think it's too brilliant to ignore. When you're talking about prog, the capital letter behind me here, you got to count Neil Morse Band. And it's the similitude of the dream, the double album. I mean, I actually wrestle with this between this and Great Adventure because to me, it's like the Quadrophenia, the next step of greatness, but you're not surprised because it's just so talented of an album. If people haven't seen this or gave it a listen because you might think about the spiritual overtone from his solo record, this is a different deal. Sure, it's positive. Sure, it's uplifting, but so is Yes and the Flower Kings and a lot of other bands that do prog. Glass Hammer, for example. If you want Loom and Gloom, by Roger Waters, right? Got his cup of tea. But this guy's very positive, and sure, it will be a little bit on a spiritual overtone, but overall, the music is awesome. The vocals are awesome. The musicianship is incredible. And if you're not blown away by that, just listening to it, check out the concert of them doing it, note to note. If that don't blow you away, I mean, I have to go and feel your pulse to know you got a heartbeat. Because how can you not be moved by watching how they pull that off too live. Because this thing, one thing you say about studio work, yeah, they threw everything in a kitchen sink. Can they live up to it? But they do. And that's because the cellar players, the cellar musician, everybody got a chance. Now, you would think on the name Neil Morse Band that he's just a star, but everybody had a chance to shine. Everybody get to sing. Everybody get to participate in this epic story. And so I've had, there's been concept albums, storytelling album, and sometimes, the plot is whatever. But I enjoyed this. I really did. I really did. I went there with being mind wide open, and I was blown away. And I didn't know there was a second disc to go through it. And I was just as equally blown away. So it wrapped up a good story. And for those who haven't checked it out, you have to just give it a spin or just watch it. Watch this concert. It's the Similitude of a Dream live in Tilburg 2017. Brilliant, brilliant performance. And to think they record this stuff, they just released the album, and they're all in busy band. There are only so many rehearsal days before they perform that. I'm just blown away how spot on, note to note, right through the whole thing. I mean, even Tommy, they've done it several times. It's never like the album. There's always a little bit of stretch, and they did the album and then done it with justice.
Yeah, I would say, Neil's been so prolific over the last 10 years. It's crazy. But I would say The Similitude of a Dream is my favorite out of all of them. And that's in my honorable mentions. I think it's a terrific album. And it's just the musicianship is just absolutely mind blowing on it. So, but I actually prefer the Neil Morse Band to Neil Morse solo. And it's not even close. I
don't even have the Neil Morse solo stuff. I mean, I have all of his project that he done. I don't need the gospel according to Neil. I really don't, but I do want to feel what he can do. And the guy plays multiple instruments, and he makes everybody get a chance to shine. Yeah. It's not, so I like that.
Yeah.
I would check it out. I'm not open, closed-minded, but I don't have anything. I only have all of the Neil Morse Band, and I'm blown away.
Yeah, I mean, the Neil Morse solo stuff is musically, it's terrific. Okay. The messaging can be a little daunting at times because it's, very, very spiritual. But I find that the Neil Morse Band stuff is more like a true band. And, everybody really takes part. You got Mike Portnoy and Eric Gillette and, the whole crew, and they all really contribute. So it feels like a real band. So that's a good choice. Good choice.
Thank you.
Back to Ken.
Well, I just want to throw this offer out there. If anybody wants, for $10, I have a Sharpie here. I'll sell them an entire Post-it pad, and I'll write whatever you want on it. So I'm just throwing it out there, just brainstorming. So
you gonna frame it too?
Sure, why not? We'll do something. We'll do something attractive.
Will you come and find me in Glasgow though?
Glasgow.
Glasgow.
I remember the comments, people complaining about Glasgow and Glasgow. So my number 4 is a little self-serving. This was one of my releases on Sensory, band from Australia called Arcane. Name of the album is Known Learned. It's a double CD. And soon to be a triple album, I understand. So it took the band 5 years. It was their third album. It took them 5 years to record it, and it all came together with crowdfunding. It's a concept album, kind of a loose concept album. The story, basically a story about this father and daughter and their life experiences as they grow older. The band was fronted by Jim Gray, who at the time was also the vocalist in Caligula's Horse. There's about 2 hours of music, maybe over 2 hours of music. The first disc is Known, and the second disc is Learned. And the first disc is the heavier of the two. It's often compared to Tool. I think kind of Jim's vocal styling is compared to Maynard. The second album is a little more introspective. It has heavy parts, but it's more along like Anathema, maybe Riverside. It's a very intense album. I think that it kind of plays with your emotions. Very long tracks. There's not a lot of flash to the album, but as you listen, you hear a lot of complexity. And the linchpin of the whole album is Jim Gray. I mean, he's just an incredible vocalist. And the unfortunate thing is, right after the album, we released this album, Jim decided to leave the band to concentrate on Caligula's Horse, and the band dissolved. So I filed them in. They could have been something. And for me, one of the best albums of the decade.
Cool.
All right, Anthony,
That one over.
or Anthony Sealing, whichever one of you want to go.
All right, my number 4 goes back to 2012. I saw the band 2 years earlier in Nearfest promoting their 2009 record. I was blown away. And then when they released their second album, the follow-up, I thought it was even better. And I keep trying to get Ken Golden to sign these guys, but Astra, the Black Chord from 2012, led by Jimmy Vaughn. Fantastic record, very Pink Floyd, stoner rock, but just a vibe, very Floydy. When I saw them in Nearfest, they had this. I saw them in the morning. I think they played like at 10 o'clock in the morning. It was just, I wasn't expecting it. They were touring on the. They were playing off their debut, The Weirding, I think it was called. But this is their follow-up, Black Chord. The title track is like a 14-minute opus. Fantastic. Another great song off of this is Barefoot in the Sand. Haven't heard anything from them since. Rumors in the mid 2000s, nothing. I keep trying to get Ken to sign them, but offer not. But 2012, Astra, the Black Chord, very Floydy, very early 70s vibe. Fantastic.
Yeah, that's a terrific album. Yeah, it's like, what happened there to them? It's like, geez.
I would have signed them. Well, actually, some of the guys, they're in a new band. What the hell is it called? Oh, damn it. If you give me a minute, I could probably find it.
I think they released an EP, but Jimmy Vaughn, Jimmy Vaughn's not a part of it.
Birth.
He was, in my opinion, the main cog of the band.
They're called Birth. I love those albums, and I'm going to pat myself on the back because I got them the slot at Nearfest, and at least I feel I did. Jim and Ray may feel otherwise, but I kind of feel I did. And actually, I was kind of disappointed by their performance in Nearfest. I think it overwhelmed the audience. They were the opening band, I think, on Sunday.
Saturday morning.
And was it Saturday morning?
Yeah.
And they just played like 45 minutes with no break. So the audience, after a while, I think the audience kind of wilted because there was no release. There was no, there was like, it was like, and they were using the projections behind them. And it was a cool show, but there was no dialogue with the audience. They just kind of did their thing. And yeah, I think they kind of wore everybody out. But man, I love those two albums. Those albums I'm really disappointed that they haven't made a third album.
So is the second album as strong as the first? Because I've got the first, never heard the second.
Yes, yeah.
Oh.
Okay.
Anthony, for once, Anthony is not wrong. It's a great record.
Yeah, Stephen, I was thinking at all costs.
It was on my honorable mention list. I mean, it could have been in my top 5 easily. The Weirding is great, and I think Black Chord easily is good.
That title track is just jaw dropping.
It was also, it was kind of strange for a band like that to even exist. Frankly, for an American band to do that and then to get signed by Rise Above, that was. Pete Dorian has pretty good taste. And he's signed some really good bands.
Oh yeah.
I think Astra may be the best one. So, I wouldn't hold my breath for a third album, not with this Birth thing.
Yeah, it's been too long at this point.
You never know. Hey, look at Engelgard, 12
Yeah,
years.
true. Maybe they'll surprise us one day. They'll just pop out of nowhere,
Yeah, just all of a sudden it'll drop.
All right, George, what do you got up your sleeve for us?
My number 4 is instrumental prog disc. I'm an Australian drummer, Virgil Donati.
Virgil.
From This Life. Man, I wore this out summer of 2013. I was working with a guy who also happened to be into this, another musician and guitar player, and we just played this every day. I mean, his thing is Virgil's got a unique writing style, very polymetric, but also very heavy. He really likes to do the heavy stuff, and then he recruits top class LA session guys. So you got fusion quality players soloing over these hard instrumental progressive tunes. It's quite an interesting mix. I think my two favorite tunes are a couple of middle of the album tracks with Alex Mahacek, and there's strings on those, so it's got that Symphony X feel when they do the string thing, heavy but with strings. And then the Alex, it brings a little cultured edge to it, but every song's great. I mean, with apologies to the first Spastic Ink, it's probably my favorite instrumental prog disc that I have. So, in this life.
Speaking of 2013, everybody get ready to drink, because I saw Alex, as you were saying, and Virgil Donati played with UK in 2013.
And who was playing
really
with UK?
What's that?
And who was playing in UK's band at the time?
It was Alex Manichek and Eddie Johnson.
There you go.
but Virgil Donati was the drummer.
Virgil's incredible. He's such a great
Yeah,
player.
he's really good.
Yeah. I saw him Planet X. Planet X.
And Alex plays Holdsworth solos to like a T almost. He's got that
really
same
UK?
style.
No surprise here.
I don't know. Was that really UK?
Yeah, well, UK reunion.
Mm.
It was the main two.
Let him have his moment.
Hey, I actually did see him.
You know.
I actually did see him with Bosio, so
There you go. All right. So kind of like I guess maybe Rick said, I don't know. But in assembling my top five, again, I had a list of nearly 20, and I was like, geez, any of these could be in my top five. And I ultimately went with the five that I think I have played the most. Some of them are probably pretty obvious that, you know, people have heard me talk about before. But again, some of these bands have numerous albums in this decade. And I was like, all right, I got to figure out one of them. So this next one, this band, it's a band from Sweden. And they originally were not really a prog band, although they had lots of progressive rock elements in their music, but they were more known as like a death metal band. And then they just decided at the start of like I guess right around this time period, or a little, you know, right around late 2000s, 2010 or so, they decided they were going to do away with the death metal vocals and do all clean vocals and really kind of shift away from that style of music and go more towards you know, pastoral prog and 70s style hard rock and a little psychedelia. And they released this album in 2016 called Sorceress. I'm talking about Opeth. And I absolutely love this album. What I like so much about this album, it's got a lot of variety on it. You've got like the title track is like doomy hard rock. You've got Will o' the Wisp, which is kind of like Jethro Tullish. You've got all these other songs on here that bring different things to the table. There's some complex prog. There's more folky stuff on here. There's good 70s hard rock. All really memorable songs, expertly played, great vocals, nice keyboards, great guitars. I just love it. It's one of my favorites in their catalog, especially on the latter part of the catalog. You know, they've got classics like Blackwater Park and Still Life and Deliverance, which from the more, you know, death metal days. But you know, as far as their like latter period stuff, this is top notch in my opinion. So Sorceress 2016 Opeth, and they just lost their
Pete,
drummer.
Did you see they just fired the drummer?
Yeah, apparently there was some kind of miscommunication about something. So there's all sorts of speculation on what that was, but they say they're still friends and they wish each other luck, and but we can't continue on together anymore. So it's just kind of weird that it happened right around the time where they're starting this tour with Mastodon. So you gotta wonder. Yeah, I'll leave it at that because I don't really want to go there on this program. But yeah, it's weird timing, right? And Martin Axelrod has been in the band for, you know, a long time now, and he's been part of that band for so long. So yeah, it's like kind of crazy.
If it's a drummer, a girlfriend, somebody's girlfriend was involved.
Could be.
That's
Always seems to be the case, right? Yeah, who knows? Who knows? All right, Stephen, back to you.
So I said I'm trying to choose things I haven't mentioned before. I probably have mentioned this band before. They're a Scottish band, but I've probably mentioned the really early releases. And by the time that we get to 2014 and we are who we are, Palace are a completely different band. They sound nothing like the blatantly neo-prog kind of Marillion-esque pulling from Genesis outfit that released the Sentinel, which is outstanding. But by this stage, they're a much darker, much more melancholy, much more somber, I'd say much more mature band. So this album is 2014, another UK act. As I say, I've chosen a lot of UK acts, not for any particular reason other than I like them. This is the second album with Paul Mackey on vocals. Rob Reid had departed the band, for want of a better turn of phrase, by this stage. And Paul Mackey seems to divide some fans because he's not Rob Reid, I think, is probably the truth. I think he does a really good job with this kind of material. He's not maybe got the purest, most sort of, songbird kind of voice, but he adds a lot of character, a lot of drama to the music, and it makes for a much kind of moodier band than they'd maybe been before, although the stuff that had come just before this was good as well, it has to be said. So yeah, I think this is their most recent album as well. It's their seventh most recent, but they've released, if you go onto their Bandcamp page, they are remarkably active in terms of archival releases. They remaster a lot of their stuff. They put out a lot of demos. They release a lot of kind of classic and more recent live shows. And there's a humongous amount of material that you can go and pick up on their Bandcamp page, including this, for really not very much. And I love the artwork on this as well. And there was a companion EP that also had this on it. It is what it is. I just think this is an excellent and kind of underrated era of Palace. So that's my number 3.
Cool. Good choice.
Okay, so my next one is from Norwegian. This band, I could have picked anyone, but I think it's from 2019, Magic Pie. Okay, can you see it?
Where'd he go?
So it's the fragment of the Fifth Element. Okay, kind of clear here. And but you know what? I find that I could have picked any of those albums. It's one of those examples, like the one I did in the beginning, is that they're all equally really great. In fact, I think they're getting better every album. I just think it's just like if they quit now, this would have been a great swan song, because it's definitely a great way to go. I hope not. I hope they got more coming. But I did find that they're very catchy. Everything that we like about prog, from the great of the 70s to the present, but they also can be metallic. It can play your metal in there, and the arrangements are very creative, and I just love it. I mean, for this album especially, The Man Who Had It All, what a way to start off an album, a 23-minute hit you over the head with some brilliant stuff. A lot of people don't even put that kind of work on a full album, let alone 23 minutes, and then they give you some more. So I really like it. I don't even know what's my favorite track, but I just know that what a way to introduce yourself to this band. If you haven't heard this band, start with this. I mean, it's incredible, because I'm sure they'll be featuring some more stuff with COVID. There's a lot of time on their hands. But anyway, check this out, guys. Magic Pie. I think they only have about six albums, and I like them all.
Yeah, they're all really strong. I think it's 5 or 6, and great live band. I saw them. I think they played at Rosfest. I know,
like every year at Rosfest.
Yeah, I only went to Rosfest once, and they were terrific. Really, really good. And they live, they come across pretty heavy, because, like Rick said, they've got some oomph to their sound. They have like this kind of Deep Purple meets Dream Theater element to their music, which I think is cool. Yeah. So really good band. Every one of their albums is really good.
Yeah.
They
and that's 2019. So
didn't they just break up? Or didn't they break up? No?
I don't know.
For some reason I thought there were no more.
I haven't heard. I don't know.
I
hope not. But
me too.
I don't want to,
starting rumors.
Got a rumor.
Yeah, I don't want to. That's what I thought I read. But
Hey, Porcupine Tree's getting back together.
Yes, we heard that.
That's just a rumor.
Each and everything.
Yeah.
All right, Ken, you're up.
I got, it's not easy following a hologram. I got to tell you. There you go, man. Unbelievable. So my third album that I'm randomly picking, pardon me because I'm holding up the wrong one. It's by the British band Big Big Train.
Oh, okay.
English Electric, Full Power, which is the double. So they're kind of an interesting band. They were originally signed to Cyclops Records, and they made what I thought were a series of very nondescript albums. They were just this English neo-prog band. And then they went through a lineup change in 2009. Nick DiVirgilio joined. And then they brought in this new vocalist, David Longdon, who's really an interesting story. He was a finalist to replace Phil Collins in Genesis. But Banks and Rutherford picked Ray Wilson. And that was kind of a mistake because, Longdon's voice, he really sounds like a cross between Gabriel and Collins. I mean, he could have pulled off the Genesis back catalog, in his sleep. And he also played flute. I mean, he was the guy. And they went with Ray Wilson. I never quite understood that. So Big Big Train was, the band is led by Greg Spaughton. And he was kind of lucky because he got this great vocalist. And then Dave Gregory from XTC, the guitarist, he joined. And everything kind of came together. Their 2009 album called The Underfall Yard. Just the songwriting got better. The musicianship got better. It just, all of a sudden, they were like a real band. It was something, real. But that was just really the prelude to English Electric, which I think is just an absolutely gorgeous album. It has this really kind of gentle pastoral quality. It reminds me a lot of early Genesis, like around Trespass. It's just an album that really demands that you listen to it. You hear a lot of intricacies. You hear like references to like Genesis throughout, Marillion, a little bit of King Crimson in there, early King Crimson, even a little Yes. It's like that classic British sound just revived. And it's this contemporary prog rock album that has vintage sounds just sort of enmeshed in it. And for me, it's a great album. I think it's their best album. They've made good albums since, but for me, English Electric, I guess Full Power, the double, that's the one.
Yeah, really good band. I'd say like the second half of their career is definitely, they're another one of those bands that just keeps getting better.
No, it was really odd because they were just kind of this band, that Cyclops was churning out all these English neo-prog bands, and they were just one of them. And then they left and they got their shit together.
Yeah.
Greg pulled it all together.
Yep. Good stuff.
Yeah. Feels like they're about to break big as well. It's been a kind of slow journey for them. Yeah. Some real momentum, no pun intended on the band name, but real momentum behind them now, where you think that maybe they could go over the top.
Yeah, they're playing bigger places, and they were supposed to tour here, but that got canceled. I guess it's going to be pushed into next year. I'd love to see them. They've Rickard from Beardfish is in the band now.
And, yeah, they sent me their new album. I haven't listened to it yet, but I'm sure it's good. The last one was really good too. So
yeah, they're a really good band. I'm not sure I could think of an English band at the moment that's better than Big Big Train.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, Anthony.
My number 3 from the 2010 to 2020 comes from a musician who has quite a pedigree. His father was one of the Beatles. So I'm going with The Ghost of a Saber-Toothed Tiger, Midnight Sun, with Sean Lennon and his girlfriend Charlotte Mall. Fantastic stoner 70s vibe, with ending with the epic Moth to a Flame. I hope to one day see Sean Lennon live. The stuff he did with Claypool Lennon live, they were doing King Crimson, they were doing Pink Floyd. The guy just gets it, and he's got that it factor. Not just because he's John Lennon's son, he just has that it factor, at least for me. So I'm going with The Ghost of a Saber-Toothed Tiger. Midnight Sun, just very stoner rock vibe, but the songs are fantastic, well crafted, heck of a guitar player, heck of a vibe, heck of an atmosphere. So hopefully in 2022, I get to see him. Definitely on my bucket list.
Pretty cool album cover there too.
John Lennon's beefing up security right now.
All right, George, back to you.
All right. I mean, we all have a ton of albums, so sometimes it's easy to get jaded and not be taken aback by how good something is, especially when you have other albums by a band and you think they're at a certain level. Then this came out in 2014. It's like a jump for them. Talking about Snarky Puppy.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
You like it here? This is like a huge leap forward, in my opinion. And obviously, a friend of mine used to say, if something's inspired, people can hear it, other than the people that it's targeted toward. Half the songs on this album are on reaction channels, and it's instrumental music. I mean, it's pretty unusual, but it's just expertly done. All kinds of different influences, jazz rock mostly, but funk. Totally tight. It's live, but everything's new, so it's not really a live album in the spirit of what we do around here. But it's Snarky Puppy. We like it here.
Might be their best album, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Really good stuff. And oddly enough, like kind of hard to believe in this day and age that a band like that's getting so much attention, right?
They got something. Someone's hearing it.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, you even have like the jam crowd like digs them too, right? So it's like they're drawn from different scenes, and yeah, I think it's cool. It's cool. Good band. All right, my number 3. God, what year was this from again? 2020. Another one from 2020. I listened to this a ton. I think for me, this is like one of the great. I don't even know if I want to call it a comeback album, because they've been around for a couple of years. Now releasing new music, but I think it really just all came together here. And it's The Absence of Presence by Kansas. I mean, it was my favorite album of last year. Actually, no, it was number 2. The Blue Oyster Cult album was number 1, but this was number 2. Just fantastic. I mean, this to me just sounds like a classic Kansas album from the late 70s, early 80s. It's got everything you want there. Loads of violin, great keyboards, plenty of guitar, great vocals, epic tracks, catchy melodies. Just absolutely love it. It's just a shame that Zach Rizvi, who was their producer, chief songwriter, and second guitar player, left the band after they put this out. He was so important in making this happen and helping make this what it was. But I guess, the Kansas machine was a little bit too much for him to handle. He didn't want to be on the road all that time. And so he kind of said, all right, that's about as far as I can go, which is a shame. But this is a great, great album. Easily the best thing Kansas has done in decades. And I love it. So that's my number 3.
That's a tremendous album. And I mean, the album prior to that was good as well.
Yeah.
I think that was unexpectedly good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for me, what I've got next, I don't actually have a full prop. I was lucky enough a long time ago to be sent a promo disc that had a booklet, and the booklet is very nice, but everything in it is absolutely tiny. So I've tried to get the album art on my phone, if it'll work. Whether you can actually see it or not is another matter entirely, but we'll see. I don't know if that comes across at all. So this is A Forest Full of Stars. Okay. Opportunistic Thieves of Spring is the name of the album. So this is another band from the UK, from Leeds in England. It was released in 2010. And for want of a better turn of phrase, it's progressive black metal with a little bit of kind of psychedelia mixed in with it. There's a lot of nonsense in terms of it's based on a William Blake proverb. Exuberance is beauty. And they use that as an explanation, supposedly, of the struggle against insanity. That's the basis of the album. Okay, but there's silly band names. Bear with me. So we've got Mr. Curse on vocals. We've got T.S. Kettleburner. Thank you. There's John the Resurrectionist Bishop, and I won't name the rest of them. But you have to kind of get over that and into the music. It starts off really as it's just black metal. It's good, and it is progressive, and it's kind of expansive. But from there, as the album evolves, and I presume as the concept evolves, so the whole ethos of the music evolves. It remains heavy and intense, but the vocals are cleaner as the album moves on. There's violin in there, there's a bit of Jew's harp at times, bizarrely enough. The riffs remain crushing, but there are long, kind of brave sections where you just get kind of eerie mood music, which kind of sets up the next piece of music that comes along and either crushes you with a massive riff or surprises you by being piano and violin. And put together, it really shouldn't work, but it really does. And it's a great journey, and it is one that took a couple of listens to really click with me, but when it did, it stayed with me. And a lot of these albums that you kind of think, yeah, it's maybe a little bit gimmicky, lose that kind of, sheen after times. But I keep going back to it, and I keep really liking it. And they do have other good stuff in their catalogue as well that I could have pulled out for this show. But that's the one that I continually get drawn back to. So that is Opportunistic Thieves of Spring by A Forest Full of Stars.
Yeah, that got a bit of attention when it first came out, if I remember correctly. I mean, it seems like it's so long ago, but
that was right at the start of the decade. So that was 2010. And they'd had, I think, a couple before that didn't do much for them. Yeah. And then there's been two that have come after. I can't remember the title of the one that's most recent. It's almost as good, almost good. But I don't know if it's still running now, because bands don't really keep websites in the same way. But they had a website as well that you used to go onto it, and it was like a scene that was all spread out on a table and in a room, and you clicked on different things. It was all linked to the songs and the themes, and somebody somewhere had put a huge amount of thought behind what the whole look and idea of the band was meant to be. And it does convey in the booklet, but the booklet is a little small to show. I mean, they're all kind of wearing silly garb and vintage photos in the sepia sort of thing. And the artwork, as you go through the journey of the concept, is really very cool. It's very smart indeed. There's a lot of time and thought went into it, and that comes across in the music as well. It's very much cared for. But if you were just to give it a cursory listen, you'd go, black metal. You've really got to sit and let the whole thing play out and get past, unless you love black metal, which I can take or leave, to be honest. But once you get past that and realize how adventurous the album is, it's really quite exciting.
Very cool. Yeah, I remember at the time they were almost compared to like the US's Wolves in the Throne Room, because both bands were doing some really different stuff in the context of black metal. They don't really sound alike, but they were bringing all these different elements to the table. So yeah, cool. All right, Rick, back to you.
Okay. Well, this one, of all the examples we're probably given tonight, this is not probably the most proggy album of this progressive rock band, but you would have to be a prog rock songwriter to write this album, if that makes sense, because they did a lot of the song structure, and you guys know what I'm talking about. Here we go, magic for you, Ken. Okay, Rush, Clockwork Angel, concept album, and that way you can see it. Now look, it even shows up now that I put the background. Anyway, this is a great album for me. I listen to it, I get emotional. I think I probably had a lot of airtime because of, we lost Neil, and but I love the album. I love the concert. I love the concept. I know it's not the most creative one when it comes to time signature changes and all the stuff that I've just given you earlier, but they're still near dear to my heart. And yeah, it's just more of a sentimental value as well. But if this was a swan song, this is the way to go, right? Because it's kind of like a full circle. They kind of made like the first album, but of course Neil got the great lyrics, so it's not that boogie woogie stuff they were writing in the first album, but they brought the maturity, but they brought that accessible hook and showing you that they can still play. And some of the way the songs are arranged, you have to be a prog rock writer to make that happen. I mean, listening to it, yeah, they made it accessible. Yeah, they made it 4 minutes, 5 minutes, the longest 2, maybe 6 minutes, but they did it still Rush style, right? And that's the way to go. I'm proud of them actually. For a Canadian, this is like, they're my favorite band, Canadian band, but this is like a major deal to think that you can go out swinging like that.
Yeah, it's one of the great like final albums ever, I think,
Mhm.
that totally went out in style. Yeah. Great choice. All right, Ken.
I feel like I'm at the Fillmore in the Joshua Light Show. So for my trick, I'm going to cut a woman in half with a box cutter.
What half are you keeping?
So, all right. So this one is out of left field, and you guys might want to write this one down because I guarantee none of you guys know this album. But this album, when this came out, just blew me away. Just give you a little background before I do the reveal, the big reveal. Years ago, there was a space rock band, American space rock band called Jessamine, and they were signed to Cranky Records. And some of those guys formed a post-rock band called Fontanelle. And Fontanelle took about 10 years off. And then in 2012, they got back together and they signed with the extreme metal label Southern Lord. And their sound changed completely. And they made this album, Vitamin F. And it's obvious that like in those 10 years when they weren't doing anything, they basically just, these guys just sat in a room and just played like the entire Electric Miles Davis catalog and Herbie Hancock's Wandishi trilogy over and over. These guys like totally grokked that Cosmogroove electric sound. It's like a mashup of like Bitches Brew, On the Corner, and Wandishi, with maybe like a dash of like Funkadelic thrown in, maybe like some Eddie Hazel thrown in there. And it's like they took this old sound and they regurgitated it a bit and they just nailed it perfectly. It's just an extraordinary album. And man,
I'm interested already. You can stop right there.
I'm telling you, man, this album is the shit. This album will rock your world. And I could have easily made this my number one. Fontanelle, they haven't done anything since. I don't know that the band still exists. It was just kind of a very strange choice for them to be on Southern Lord.
I was just going to say, yeah, that's a weird label.
I don't know how it did. It came out on CD as well, of course. We sold it. I think I may have it in stock. I'm not sure. But man, if you like that vibe, if you're into jazz rock, Miles Davis, if Bitches Brew is your thing, when you hear this album, you're going to totally lose your shit because it's spot on. And I love this album, man. I can't emphasize what a great record it is.
Right on. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, I will definitely be looking into that. Cool.
Me too.
George, did you ever hear of it?
No.
Thank you.
All right, Anthony, what do you got?
All right, my number two was recorded in 2008, but was released for 4 years later because of probably legal reasons and maybe the quirky name of the band. But you had two of my all-time favorite heroes in music getting together, and I think they came up with a fantastic record. I'm going with Squack It, A Life Within a Day, featuring Chris Squire and Steve Hackett. The title track is awesome. Aliens is awesome. Another one I really enjoy is The Summer Backwards. I think the two singing together, it works. And of course, you got the Hackett sound, you got the Squire bass sound. I don't know, I just love it. 2012, I could have done without Squack It. I thought that was kind of a goofy name, but the album worked for me. It was a big part of my listening. I bought it. I remember Greg Walker brought it. It was released right around Nearfest 2012 when I bought it, and kind of dominated my summer listening that year. So Squack It, A Life in One Day, A Life Within a Day, 2012. This is my number two.
Ken's like, why didn't you buy it from me? You bought it from
Well, there were two bad things about what he said. One was the album sucked, and the other thing was that he bought it from Greg. So those are the two. I'm sorry, Anthony. I don't want to step on your favorite of yours. It's not a
See,
favorite of mine.
That's why you didn't step on it, you stamped on it. You knew it was
Ow.
I
And then
just-
Pete stomped on my number 5.
I
That's
just-
not gonna be my top 5.
I just thought that was a sucky.
Ken just squacked on it is what he did.
That was,
Hey, Ken listens to Model Jazz, so
yeah, I know. Yeah, it's terrible. The things
I will say that I think the Squacket album is better than the GTR album. We talk about like the big kind of, super group type of
I
thing.
like the GTR album.
I mean, I don't hate it. I think it could have been better, but I think the
Oh, it could have
Squacket
been better,
album's
but-
okay. I think the Squacket album could have been better too. But I think it would have been cool to hear them work together again after that, not just that one off. But oh well. All right, George.
This one's pretty obscure. It's a Hungarian fusion drummer, Gergő Borlai, MMM, or I don't know how it's pronounced. It's a fusion record. It's a bunch of Hungarian badasses on here. I don't know most of them except keyboardist Zolt Kaltnecker is the guy that's in Special Providence now. And then he's got guest appearances from Gary Willis and Scott Kinsey and Matt Garrison, one song apiece for American fusion heavyweights. But hard driving fusion, this now he's pretty unknown at this point. It's 2010, but now he's pretty much the first call fusion guy. For the guys that used to call Dennis Chambers before he got sick, they're calling Gergő Borlai now. He's that guy that comes in and spices up everybody's records. So he put it out himself. So hard copy enthusiasts are not going to find it. It's out of print, but I encourage everybody else that streams their MP3s, Gergő Borlai, or MMM. I don't know.
The next Sea of Tranquility shirt, a bunch of Hungarian badasses. Oh, I love it. All right. Number 2, right? Okay. Kind of another, like my last one, another great comeback release from a legacy band that, they've been called kind of prog or hard rock most of their career, but I think this album was a complete return to prog for them, and I absolutely love it. And I listened to this and still listen to this a ton. The Mission by Styx from 2017, just such a great return to form, and kick-ass songs on here. It's really proggy, and I just wish the album was longer because it's a concept album. Tommy Shaw wrote most of the lyrics to this whole thing, but some great songs on here. Red Storm is fantastic. Locomotive, Radio Silence. The Overture is fantastic. It's just big, bombastic Styx. And it's more of the prog Styx as opposed to the hard rock Styx, even though it does rock in spots. But great album, and was one of my favorites of 2017. It had to be on my list. So there you go. Number 2. Back
Would
to
it be
Steve.
fair to suggest it's maybe their proggiest Styx?
Out of all their albums,
That's Equinox. That's Equinox.
yeah.
21st century.
I would say
Stephen, my
oh.
friend, Stephen, my friend, that's Equinox.
Thank you. Yes, I'll take note of that.
yeah, I don't know. I would say The Mission, Equinox, and Crystal Ball, and probably Grand Illusion are probably their most prog rock albums. I would say,
Yeah.
easily.
The Mission surprised me with how prog it was, just because it's been so long since
Yeah.
it been anything along those lines. I mean, some of the more recent stuff verged into, well, more recent, 20, 30 years old, verged into pop music.
Yeah.
So to be hit with that was kind of like, wow. But yeah, great album nonetheless.
are their first albums, like the ones on Wooden Nickel, supposed to be the proggiest?
I love them. They're really
I think
good.
they're good. I mean, they have their moments,
Right.
Ken. Those early albums have you'll get like a full-on prog song, then they'll do a boogie song, then they'll do a heavy rock song. Then
Like
they'll-
a Southern rock song too.
Yeah, they're very varied, but there's a lot of good material on those.
And James Young sings a lot more.
a lot of them, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
He sings
By
like
the third and fourth album, I was gonna say by the third and fourth album, they're showing more proggy right down to, you know, Equinox and Crystal Ball. They now are part of the formula. So I think they were, by the third album, fourth album, you know, I think they knew where they were going.
Yeah, you can hear like on Serpent Rising and Man of Miracles, you can really start to hear the sound that would show up on Equinox and subsequent albums. And then, you know, of course, then when Tommy Shaw came into the band, I think that brought a whole other element. And yeah, I mean, I'm a big Styx fan and I like most of their stuff. But yeah, they're, like Steven said, they had some albums there in like the late 80s and the 90s that are, you know, there's some good tracks, but that's not prime Styx by any means. So,
yeah. Agreed.
All right, number one, here we go.
Yeah, I really haven't chosen an order, but the one that lands at my number one I like a lot. I tend to avoid, when we do these kind of shows, I tend to avoid live albums. But I almost had to remind myself that this was a live album because it doesn't necessarily have that feel. So I've chosen 4 UK acts up till now, so it's only fair that my last one is from Uzbekistan. Obviously, where else would it be from? This is this is from us, or from Uz, whatever way it's pronounced, and this is Quartus Artefactus. I've been working on that. Okay, so this is from 2011, and it came out on 10T Records, a US label who just disappeared around 2015, 2016. They did lots and lots of really great, mainly US-based prog, Mars Hollow, Third Degree, Man on Fire, TCP. I've got shed loads of their releases, and then this was one of the last ones. I think Third Degree was the last one they put out, and they just didn't seem to exist anymore.
Yeah.
Even now, you look them up, and there's nothing to tell you that they don't exist anymore, other than the fact they don't release any music. But there you go. So that's the real shame, because they release some great stuff. So this is on 10T Records. It's a 2 CD, 1 DVD set. Okay, so for anyone that doesn't know from us, they're a prog band, they're a fusion band, but they bring quite a lot of traditional elements from their own native area, that kind of Eastern kind of sound, into that as well. But on this album, they then boil all of that down into a kind of chamber music sound. It's an acoustic album. And the DVD, when you see them play, the standard of musicianship is just off the charts. It's absolutely phenomenal. It's deep and it's dark and it's intricate, but it's fast and it's frantic and it's so tight, but it needs to be. If it wasn't, it would just unravel at the drop of a hat. So you've got the best of the material from Audio Diplomacy, Overlook and Seventh Story, all on here. And it's just jaw-droppingly good, in my opinion. I really like nearly everything in the catalogue. The last album, which I think is about 2016, Sodom and Gomorrah, kind of went a little bit like that for me. I think that was old ideas reworked. They seem to have disappeared as well, unfortunately. I haven't heard anything for a long time. So most of this is instrumental. There are some vocals on it, which are actually very good. So I don't know why they didn't maybe introduce more of that. And most of the songs tend to be kind of 10, 12 minutes long. Parallels is over 20 minutes long in here as well. But they just like to stretch out. Nothing feels like it's that length. It's just an excellent album. And I really like an awful lot of what's in the catalogue. It's only, I think, 3-4 studio albums. And then this, and it's just outstandingly good. But this really, for me, encapsulates everything they're about, even though, in terms of sound, it's a little different from the rest of their albums. So this is Quartus Artefactus by From Us.
And that guitar player is pretty terrific in that band too.
Yes, I worked on the album title. I didn't want to work on any band member names.
What's interesting is that, and I know the guys who started up 10T Records, and man, I haven't asked them about it in many years, but it's just like, it almost seems like the label went belly up and every single band that was on the label, you never heard from again.
Yeah, they all just seem to have gone, don't they? I think Third Degree went on to do some, self-finance releases.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I haven't picked up anything by anything that was on the roster.
Yeah.
And the roster was quite big. They had I say quite big by modern terms, 10, 15 acts that kind of seem to regularly be involved with them.
Yeah, I mean, I thought like
And
Man on
nobody
Fire. I
seems to be
thought
doing
was
anything
like
anymore.
square and-
Didn't they have a studio or something? Those guys have a studio.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to deal with them.
Yeah, I think
But-
so. It seemed to
but I
all
think-
come from the same place. Yeah.
I think that some of those bands might have migrated over to prog rock records. Possible.
That could be.
Maybe.
I don't know.
I don't know, but
I haven't seen much by anybody. I'll need to have a proper look, to be fair. But you might be right, Ken.
I mean, Ken, I think Frog Cafe was on the label for a while too, right?
yeah.
Mhm.
And then
Yeah,
Frog,
they were.
Frog Cafe went to prog rock records, and
That's true.
prog rock records went belly up. That
Yeah.
was
Yeah. Yeah, that was a whole other story, right? Yeah.
Ooh, yeah, you could do a night of that.
Yeah. Ooh. All right, Rick, back to you for your final choice for the day.
Okay, drum roll, please. Well, this band is one of my favorite supergroups, right? And I always favor supergroups, and especially in the prog arena. And in this case, this album had 5 songs, but like anything else, when you get this band, they give you a lot of bonus discs and DVD how they make it. If you haven't figured it out, I'm talking about Transatlantic, Kaleidoscope. I love that record. I just very moved by every individual song. Really stands out. And then when you get this album, you also get a bonus disc, but they throw in stuff of the great prog bands of the past. They do a cover of You and I from Yes. ELO, Can't Get It Out of My Head, and everybody from Elton John, Small Faces, Night in White Satin from Moody Blues, and then the third disc, like Mike Portnoy always does, he always give you everything in the package. It's like he always give you a big bang for your buck, and almost every project he touched. We give you a third disc about how they made this creative piece of music. And when you know about the individual talent, they're all from respected band, right? Millennium, Flower King, the ex Spock Beard, and the ex Dream Theater coming together. They all got strong personalities, but the solidarity that they have among each other leave room for everybody to shine and make a good product. That sometimes could be very hard when you got strong-minded individuals, but it worked because this is a brotherhood album of people from all across. That's why Transatlantic's the perfect name for it. Everybody got a different piece of country they come from, coming together just like this channel and sharing their love for music for prog and bit of prog project out. And it started off to be only a one thing going, and then they did so well, they put another album out, another album. This one was a little gap between time. Because they did 2014, and the last one I think was Whirlwind, which is one of my favorite in 09. So, but I thought this was worth mentioning because I played this a lot, and it became like a soundtrack to a couple of summers of mine during this period because I've heard it, and just now I can just look at the song title and it's playing in real time in my head because I've heard it that much. So that's why it became number one. Do I think some of those albums are just as strong? Absolutely. But I'm giving it the most hours that I spent with it. The winner goes to this band.
Cool. Yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one. All right, Ken, back to you.
All right, Anthony's going to be very proud of me here. So I started out, my number 5 was Angligard. So I'm going to close out with the sister band, All Traps on Earth.
Oh, yeah.
So All Traps on Earth is the studio project of Johan Brand, who is the bass player from Angligard. He brought in the former Angligard keyboardist, Thomas Johnson, and the current drummer, Eric Hammerstrom. And he also, Johan also had his daughter Miranda singing on it. And that was the core band. And then he brought in other musicians. It's, the apple doesn't fall very far from the tree. It's dark progressive rock. It sounds quite a bit like Angligard, but it's a bit more diverse in influence. You could definitely hear Magma, sorry, Pete, and some Goblin. Those are 2 obvious influences. Brand loves the Mellotron. There's Mellotron all over the album, but it's constantly shifting in style. It's kind of like Angligard. It's doing one thing, and then it's next second it's doing something else. It's, you know, constantly it's either sonic or time changes, you know, and it's a brilliant record. I think in some ways I'd say it's been almost virtually the equal of Anglegarde. There's 4 epic tracks, you know, 16, 18-minute tracks sandwiched around. Well, I'm looking at this wrong. I thought it was all around a 2-minute track, but there's 3 super long tracks, a 2-minute track, and then a 14-minute track. The album will just totally kick your ass from the opening notes. It's a great record. That's my number 1.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I don't hear the Magma thing, which is probably a good thing, but I think it's a great album. Really good. Good choice.
Right, Anthony?
What's that?
Never mind.
I don't even have that record.
Not yet.
Not yet.
There's always time.
There is always time.
You're young, sort of.
All right, Anthony, what do you got for number 1?
My number 1 comes from the year 2013. It is his 3rd solo album in his discography. I think Stephen Reid will be very proud of me when I show this. The Raven That Refused to Sing, Steven Wilson, knocked it out of the park. My all-time favorite record during the decade. Probably my favorite solo album with Hand Cannot Erase going at number 2. But this was his 70s, his ode to 70s prog rock album. He even said it in an interview. Nick Beggs knocks it out of the park. Adam Holtzman, Marco Minimum on drums, Guthrie Govan on guitar. Phenomenal. I wish I saw the tour, but I saw UK Reunion instead because I had to see Eddie Jobson, my boy. But 2013, The Raven Refused to Sing. The title track is melancholy and depressing and beautiful, and the opening track, Luminol, is just a prog rock jazz fusion masterpiece. So The Raven from 2013, my number 1 from Steven Wilson.
Great choice.
And if it's any consolation, the tour was just outstandingly good.
I figured. Well, and Steven, another favorite track of mine on this, and I know he played it live, is the Pin Drop. I actually love that tune.
Yeah. And all joking aside, that tour was really something. That was absolutely fantastic. The whole atmosphere, the stage set. I think I've mentioned it on the channel before.
Well, was Marco on drums or was Chad Wackerman on drums?
It was Marco on drums.
Was it Marco? Okay, because then Chad, I think, played drums like later on in the tour across the pond, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, you went into the room and the lights were low. Usually when you go into a concert venue, the lights are still high, but the lights were low. And there was music already playing. It was kind of atmospheric, and it was kind of, you know, giving ideas of nighttime, and the sound would move around the room. And only as you sat down, because it was seated, strangely enough, did you realise that the show had actually started. And the music slowly built into what actually opened the set. And they came on and started playing. It was a phenomenal way of doing it. You were just drawn into it. They did something similar on the Hand Cannot Erase tour as well.
Now I saw that 2 times. I saw that tour 2 times, so I made up for it.
Yeah, okay, I'll let you off.
All right, George, back to you.
I'm sitting here thinking that when we did the 2000 show, my number 1 was an album from the first year of the decade from Sensory, and I did it again. I wish I'd thought of it beforehand, but I'm gonna go with Haken, Aquarius. Like Rick said, one of the most consistent bands out there, probably the most consistent in prog metal, I think. I was into him from the beginning. Actually, caught a song on MySpace of all things, and just fell in love with the record. And still to this day, I mean, I like all the other ones, but none more than this. That's for sure. So I'm going to go with Haken, Aquarius.
Yeah, it's a great one. I mean, you can pick any of them, right? I mean, they're all so good.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I like that album.
All right, my number 1, I picked a prog metal album as well. And, this band had a couple of releases in this decade. And I was sitting there thinking, like, all right, which one do I pick? I think I had to go with this one. It's not my favorite album by them. It's definitely a top level album from them, I think. But I like all their albums so much. And I think this band just keeps getting better and better. I went with 2010, so right at the beginning of this decade. Iconoclast by Symphony X. Killer. Got to get the special edition, which has 2 discs. I mean, so many great songs on here. Children of a Faceless God just absolutely kills. The title track, Iconoclast, Dehumanize, Bastards of the Machine, Electric Messiah, just prime Symphony X. Amazing guitar work, riffs and solos, wonderful keyboards, Russell Allen's great vocals, melodies to die for. I mean, I think Michael Romeo is one of the great songwriters in progressive metal. Just the guy's just able to come up with these catchy songs that are full of bombast and heaviness. I dig this album a lot. So Iconoclast is my number 1 for the decade. All right, so honorable mentions. We'll start back from the beginning. So just rattle off what you got, Stephen. I guess I'll have you start. We'll go through the list once again.
As I said right at the start, I didn't necessarily choose some of my more obvious choices in my 5. So I've even split my honorable mentions. There's quite a few. I'll try and be quick. So yes, there was Rush, Kansas, Styx, Stephen Wilson. They've all been mentioned. So I go on about Galahad a lot. Battle Scars, the 7th album from 2012. They've kind of taken the neo-prog sound and started to introduce a lot of electronica at this stage. It's almost their strongest album. I prefer one more over it, but Battle Scars is excellent. They also released Beyond the Realms of Reality, or Beyond the Realms of Euphoria, the same year, which is almost as good. Not a favourite of everybody's, but I quite like Roger Waters' most recent album.
Yeah, that's really good.
The Life. Yeah, I like it. It's got a really hard time on release. I think it's really strong. This is This the Life We Really Want? From 2017, 25 years after Amused to Death, which I still really like as well. So yeah, it's the same messages from Roger all these years later, but I think it's a strong album.
I agree.
Marillion, the quaintly titled Fuck Everyone and Run, which I just think is a remarkably strong statement from a band that's been going this length of time at this stage of their career. Really like that. A few more that are slightly less celebrated. I'm back on 10T again with Illuvator from the Silence from 2014. It's kind of US neo-prog, which in itself is quite unusual. It's very melodic, very catchy, very accessible, and very good. Karnataka, so back in the UK again. This is their 2015 album with Hayley Griffiths on vocals, Secrets of Angels. She was very much a theatre background. She brings a whole level of kind of show to the band that they just didn't have before. Saw them on that tour. They were fantastically good. I've picked out Cosmology by Cottabel. So this is kind of classically inspired symphonic fusion from Spain from 2017. Bit challenging. They've got one really long piece that's almost a whole album that takes up 6 tracks, but there's 2 bookends on it as well. Listen to that today. Forgot how good it was. I've nearly done everybody, sorry. Credo, so UK neo-prog. This is Against Reason. This is from 2011. Band have got a lot of good stuff in their catalogue. I think this is their best. It's kind of traditional neo-prog, but updated a little. I like that a lot. And my last one is Winter Horde with the album Maestro. So anyone who laments what Opeth have become and preferred what they were before they changed, this is for you. This is Opeth done Israeli style, but it's very, very good from 2016. Like this a lot. And that's me.
Rick, what do you got?
Okay, the last album of John Davison was on the Glass Hammer. Peerless. I think this is a phenomenal record. Everybody joked that this is the album Yes never made. There's no wonder why he got the job, because it's like this is the perfect vocal audition to sound like John Anderson. I gotta conclude that one. Another dear favorite, Pineapple Thief, but Disillusion. I really like this. When I went to the concert, I bought it, and my girlfriend and I listened to it on a plane on the way home, and it's been a house favorite. Sons of Apollo, one of my favorite progressive metal bands, and of course, one of the last concerts I saw before everything came to a halt. The Tea Party, The Ocean at the End. This was after 11 years of a break. They came back, sort of a comeback album. And of course, Ian Anderson from Jethro Tull plays on this album. I know it's not that popular here, and maybe that's a Pete, but I like the Flower Kings, and this is one of my favorite of the. Even though it's missing my favorite keyboard player, he's awesome, and he's missing from the record, but this album still was a very good album from 2019. Waiting for a Miracle, and Flying Colors, the first album. I really like that. That's a big. It's interesting that they can make a pop album progressive like they did it. They did it in a way to be accessible, but yet you're blown away by the people who playing those instruments. Now, the last one is a little on a controversial, probably reason why it wouldn't be in my top 5. Everybody knows I'm a big Mike Portnoy fan, but I carried on the Dream Theater wagon all the way through, right to the very last album that came up with. This album, I think it's the songs are there and it's very strong. I have a little bit of an issue about the bass not as at present. I would raise it up a dB or 2 if I was mixing. And also as a fan, I didn't like it that they didn't come up with the title for this album. But the songs are great. And I'm talking about the Dream Theater. Because part of me upset because, I love Dream Theater and I continue to see him. I support him. But when you say your Dream Theater, like that's a definitive lineup, it kind of breaks my heart when I know Derek and other people like Mike was a big, part of that movement. And so that's why it's not number 1 or number 2 or number 3, but the songs are brilliant. They're really great. I really was proud of this record when I heard it. And I said, hey, this is good, but bring up John on the bass. And I just thought they should have came up with a title, but the music does sell itself. The music's still good. I'm fighting between these two, but I have less time with this one. I had a lot of time with this one, and I have some memory because I took my son for his very first Dream Theater concert in Toronto. And, he was only 17, I think that time, 18. That was a great father and son moment. But so it's near and dear, but I always had some reservation about the mixing about some of this stuff. That's all.
Cool. All right, Ken.
I got a bunch. These are all killer, no filler. So I got a bunch from Sweden. The third album from Diablo Swing Orchestra, Pandora's Pinata. We did 2 albums by Agusa, great symphonic rock band. Their new album is amazing, right? From Sweden also, Hooffoot. You guys know Hooffoot?
Yeah.
Oh, Pete, you got it. This is right in your wheelhouse, man. This is just killer jazz rock, prog rock, recorded all analog. It's just 2 side-long tracks, kind of maybe some Mahavishnu flavors in there. It's all over the place. Really, it's a brilliant record. Here's an unusual one from Finland. It's Veneri Pahoja. He's the son of Pekka Pahoja, and he recorded his father's music, and it's interesting because it's on a jazz label, Edition Records, and it's a jazz rock album. It's a great jazz rock album. If you like Fender Rhodes, that's great. I've already held up Agusa. There's more Agusa. This Wobbler album, I thought was, the one you picked, Pete. I mean, had I included 2020, for me, frankly, with those 2 albums, it's kind of like a coin toss. I think they're both amazing. Yeah. I think all of their albums are such high quality. Yeah. So this is the one I thought Anthony would be proud of me that I mentioned this. I thought Grace for Drowning, and for me, The Raven, which I also had picked, and you guys mentioned it. I mean, for me, it was very hard to pick between the 2. I think very highly of both of those records. For me, I mean, Steven's music went in a different direction after that with Hand Cannot Erase. So he kind of lost me there and completely lost me with his latest. But I think Grace for Drowning and The Raven That Refused to Sing, to me, are 2 fantastic prog rock albums. And I could have, like I said, it's coin toss for either one. And the last one is one that's kind of little known, and I kind of forgot about it. And it is a great album if you like Italian progressive rock, La Fabbrica dell'Assoluto. And there, I think, I don't remember exactly what year. It's in the late part of the decade. And if you like Bonco, you'll love this band. They sound total vintage 70s prog, very, very much influenced by Bonco. And yeah, great album. And yeah, I think you could hear it on Spotify. They're on Black Widow. Don't know if they're still together or what the story is.
Can we see the cover again, Ken?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. It's called, yeah. Oh, here we go. La Fabbrica dell'Assoluto.
I absolutely love the cover.
Yeah,
isn't that a great cover? It's a wraparound.
That's
And
very cool.
yeah,
nice.
it's
Black
great.
Widow does some good product, man. So a lot of their covers on are really good.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's got, yeah, you hear a little bit of like a Lecco the Bronzo, a little Museo Rosenbach. It's got the flavor, it's got the sound. I hear a lot of Bonco influence in it. And yeah, I think that's everything else that I had was mentioned. So it really was a very strong decade.
It was. Anthony, got any honorables?
Yeah, I have three. 2012 Clockwork Angels. What a way to go out for the band. I miss them dearly. 2016 Claypool and Lennon. The Monoliths of Phobos. Fantastic kind of Floydy vibe to it. It's Lennon and Les Claypool do all the instrumentation. When they played live, they were doing Astronomy Domine. They did In the Court of the Crimson King. I think they did. I forget also, but fantastic vibe. And then one that Ken didn't mention that I'm really kind of surprised he didn't. And this is the last album that they've done that I know of is Anecdote Until All the Ghosts Are Gone from 2015. Great Swedish band, very Crimson-esque vibe, fantastic record, and they haven't done anything since, and it's kind of disappointing. So
Yeah,
that's the one I thought you mentioned, Ken.
It actually, I pared the list down, and that was on my list. Also,
Okay.
my Nick's band, My Brother the Wind, that I released years ago, their last album. Yeah, but that Anecdote album is a great album.
Yeah, most of it.
I concur.
I bet you're proud of me, aren't you?
I am a little bit, My Anthony is growing up.
You got a gold star.
All right, George, honorables. What do you got?
I got from the Netherlands, Sun Cage, The Lotus Effect. This is like perfection in prog metal. Sweden, Dark Water, Where Stories End, very good. And a jazz rock record, Cameron Graves, Planetary Prince, got Kamasai Washington on it, amongst others, really good. And I didn't pull them, but things that have other people said, Stephen Wilson, Raven Refused to Sing, and my Symphony X pick would be Underworld. Love that album, just wore that out that summer. So I would say that one.
I had both of them. I was like, all right, which one do I pick? I'm like, oh man, they're both so good, right? Yeah.
George, I had Kamasi Washington on my list at first, but like I said,
yeah.
And I figured that's a jazz album.
Yeah.
All right, what do I got? So I didn't pick any props for these, but a bunch of them been mentioned already. Hake in the Mountain was on my list. My Magic Pie pick was King for a Day from 2015, which I like a lot. I had Clockwork Angels by Rush. I had Stephen Wilson, The Raven That Refused to Sing. I had Kaleidoscope by Transatlantic. I had The Similitude of a Dream by Neil Morse Band. Sons of Apollo, the debut, Psychotic Symphony from 2017. I think I like that better than the second album. They're both really good. Dream Theater's Distance Over Time from 2019. And then I had to include something by Enslaved on here because I absolutely love the Norwegian progressive black metal band Enslaved, and they have killed it every release this past decade. So I went with 2010's Axioma Ethica Odini. Telling you, Stephen, you talked about the other band earlier. I mean, the Enslaved stuff is just basically like, Pink Floyd and old school Genesis meets black metal. And man, so good. I mean, they've got so many great albums. So I wanted to include them. Spock's Beard, Brief Nocturnes and Dreamless Sleep from 2013. And my last one is Vandenplas, great German prog metal band, Chronicles of the Immortals, Netherworld from 2014. So that's my honorables. A lot of good stuff. I could and of course I should have had Anglagard on my list. So that's my one regret, because how did I forget that? But yeah. So there you have it, everybody. So our favorite releases from 2010 to 2020, I guess. In the comments below, list some of your favorite choices, your top 5, your top 10, whatever you want to do. Remember, this is all prog rock, prog metal, and fusion. So let's kind of keep it to those styles there. And thanks for watching, and visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, of course, we're here on YouTube all the damn time. Make sure you go over to lasercd.com to go try and find some of these gems and place an order with Mr. Golden. He'd be happy to ship to wherever you might be. So thanks for watching. For Stephen Reid, Rick LaBonte, Ken Golden, Anthony Ferraro, George Lamie, I am Pete Pardo. Good night, everybody. See you next week in the Progs.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Good to see you.